The massive crystal halls of the Zephyrian Galactic Council shine bright against the darkness of space. The building floated around the dead planet Kepler 442b like a giant jewel. Inside these halls, 12 different alien species had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They controlled 847 star systems and billions of worlds. Council Prime Dex Ara stood tall at the center of the main chamber. Her insect-like body was covered in hard black plates. Her forearms moved with quick, sharp motions as she spoke. Around her, the other council members sat in their special chairs made for their different body types. "Today we discuss a new discovery," Dexara said. Her voice came out as clicks and buzzes, but the translator made her words clear to everyone. "Our scout ships have found another species. They call themselves humans. They come from a system called Sol." Ambassador Velthan of the Nereid Federation laughed. His fish-like body was covered in blue scales that shimmered in the crystal light. Water flowed around his chair to keep his gills working. "Another primitive species, I assume?" Dexara moved one of her arms to show a holographic display. Pictures appeared in the air above them. The images showed small metal ships with fire coming out the back. There were pictures of a blue and green planet with white clouds. "Very primitive," Dexara confirmed. "They still use chemical rockets to move through space. Their weapons are basic nuclear devices. They only learned to travel faster than light 50 years ago. Their technology is thousands of years behind ours." The council members made various sounds of amusement. Some laughed, others made clicking noises, and a few just shook their heads. General Krexter of the warrior caste pounded his massive fist on his chair's armrest. His rock-like skin made a loud sound when it hit the metal. 50 years? We mastered faster than light travel before most of our species could even speak properly. These humans are babies playing with fire. What is their military strength?" asked Lady Uranel from the Crystalline Collective. Her body was made of living crystal that changed colors as she thought. Right now, she was a calm blue color. Dexara clicked her mandibles together. "They have approximately 12,000 ships spread across their single star system. Most are cargo vessels or exploration craft. Their military consists of maybe 300 warships, none larger than our smallest patrol boats. 300 ships." Velthan laughed so hard that bubbles came out of his breathing apparatus. "Our home defense fleet has more ships than their entire military. Their largest vessel is 200 meters long," Dexara continued. "Our standard cruisers are 800 meters. They are not a threat to anyone." The council chamber filled with the sounds of alien laughter and amusement. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had expanded their territory by finding new species and forcing them to join. The process was always the same. Send a small fleet to the new species' home world. Show them how advanced the Council was. Explain that they could either join peacefully or be destroyed. Every species chose to join. "I propose we send the standard first contact fleet," said Ambassador Yethkal from the Shadow Collective. His dark, smoky body shifted and moved as he spoke. 3 cruisers should be more than enough to convince these humans to see reason." "Agreed," said General Krexter. "Who will lead this mission?" "Admiral Kithmer has experience with primitive species," Dexara replied. His last 3 first contact missions went very smoothly. The new species joined the Council within days of his arrival. The Council members made sounds of approval. Admiral Kithmer was known for his efficient work. He had a talent for making primitive species understand their place in the galaxy without having to destroy too many of their cities. "What resources does this Sol system have?" asked Economic Minister Drexvin from the Trade Guild. His multiple tentacles moved across a datapad as he spoke. "Standard resources," Dexara answered. 1 gas giant with useful minerals. Several asteroid belts with metal ore. The 3rd planet, Earth, has water and breathable atmosphere for carbon-based species. Nothing special, but useful for colonization projects. Perfect, Drexman said. Another tributary species and new resources for the Council. The humans will be grateful to join our great alliance. Lady Zirinel's crystals turned yellow with curiosity. The reports mention that humans have been very active in space for such a primitive species. They have built many stations and mining operations. Desperate attempts to catch up to more advanced civilizations, General Krexter said with dismissal. When they see our technology, they will understand how foolish their efforts have been. Dexara moved to end the discussion. All in favor of sending Admiral Kithmer with 3 cruisers to make first contact with the humans. 12 arms, tentacles, claws, and other appendages rose into the air. The vote was unanimous. Excellent, Dexara said. Admiral Kithmer will depart within a week. I expect this mission to be completed quickly and efficiently. These humans will learn to appreciate the benefits of joining our great council. As the meeting ended and the council members began to leave, none of them noticed the small detail in the human files. Hidden among the boring technical data was a single line that their automated systems had marked as unimportant. It mentioned that human space was defended by automated defense grids of unknown capability. The Galactic Council had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had conquered or absorbed hundreds of species. They had never met a primitive civilization that could challenge their power. They had never been wrong about a new species before, but the humans had spent 50 years doing something the Council never expected. While other primitive species spent their early space years exploring and colonizing, humans had spent those years preparing. They had learned from every piece of alien technology they could find. They had studied the remains of ancient battles. They'd asked themselves one simple question: what would we do if someone tried to conquer us? The answer to that question was waiting in the dark spaces between the planets of the Sol system. But the Galactic Council would not learn this until it was too late to matter. Admiral Kithmar stood on the bridge of the Stellar Dominion as his small fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. The viewport showed him a yellow star surrounded by several planets. Everything looked normal and peaceful. Behind him, 2 other cruisers followed in perfect formation. Sensors report. Commander Nixtel, the Admiral ordered. Commander Nixtel was a young Zephyrian with bright green carapace markings that showed her junior status. Her 6 eyes moved quickly across her control panels. Sir, I am reading multiple artificial structures throughout the system. More than our reports indicated. Admiral Kithmer moved his 4 arms behind his back in a confident pose. Primitive orbital installations, no doubt. These humans have been busy building their simple structures. What about their military vessels? Sir, I am detecting. This is strange. Commander Nixtel antennae twitched with confusion. I am reading defense platforms around several planets and moons. The number is much higher than expected. How many more? Admiral Kithmer asked. His mandibles clicked with mild interest. Sir, our reports said they might have 50 or 60 orbital defense platforms. I am counting over 3,000. The bridge fell silent for a moment. Admiral Kithmer's 4 eyes focused on the sensor display. 3,000 defense platforms was unusual for a primitive species, but not threatening. His cruisers could destroy them easily. Are they targeting us, Commander? No, sir. They appear to be inactive. But, sir, there is something else. I am detecting massive industrial activity near the gas giant. The scale is impressive for a primitive civilization. Admiral Kithmer looked at the main screen. In the distance, the gas giant Jupiter appeared as a small dot. Around it, sensors showed clouds of artificial structures. Factories, shipyards, mining stations, and other installations covered the area like a metal swarm. No matter, the Admiral said. Industry means nothing without military power. Begin standard approach procedures. We will show these humans the might of the Galactic Council. The 3 Zephyrian cruisers began moving toward Earth. Each ship was 800 meters long and armed with plasma cannons, particle beam weapons, and fusion missiles. They had conquered dozens of worlds and had never faced serious resistance. Open communication channels, Admiral Kithmer ordered. All known languages. The communication officer, a purple-skinned humanoid from the auxiliary species, worked at his controls. Channels open, sir. Broadcasting on 847 frequency ranges. Admiral Kithmer stepped forward and began the standard intimidation speech he had given many times before. Primitive species of the Sol System, you are now in the presence of the Zephyrian Galactic Council. You will immediately surrender your military forces and prepare for integration into our alliance. Resistance is futile. Your technology cannot match ours. Submit now, and your species will be treated fairly as a tributary member of the Council. The message broadcast toward Earth on radio waves, subspace frequencies, and quantum communication channels. Admiral Kithmer settled back into his command chair and waited for the usual response. Primitive species typically reacted with fear, then desperate attempts to negotiate, then surrender within a few hours. Commander Nixtel's antennae suddenly stood straight up with alarm. Sir, energy spike detected from the defense grid. Are they powering weapons? Admiral Kithmer asked calmly. Primitive weapons pose no threat to Council ships. Unknown, sir. The energy patterns are not matching any known weapons in our database. Sir, something is happening to the Granite Fist. Admiral Kithmer looked at his tactical display. The Granite Fist was his second cruiser, commanded by Captain Velcor. On the screen, he could see the ship's status indicators. Everything appeared normal. Then the ship's engine section exploded. The Granite Fist spun out of control as atmosphere and debris streamed from its rear hull. Emergency lights flashed across its surface. The ship was dead in space, unable to move or fight. What happened? Admiral Kithmer demanded. Did they hit a mine? A hidden weapon platform? Sir, I show no weapons fire. No explosions detected. No enemy contacts on sensors. The Granite Fist just stopped working. Admiral Kithmer felt the first touch of uncertainty. In 3 decades of commanding Council fleets, he had never seen anything like this. Primitive species did not have weapons that could disable a Council cruiser without being detected. Can Captain Velcor respond? The communication officer worked frantically at his controls. Sir, the Granite Fist reports that their main engine has been surgically destroyed. Something hit them with incredible precision and power. They never saw what fired on them. Impossible, Admiral Kithmer said. Our sensors would detect any weapons capable of that level of damage. Commander Nixtel's voice was tight with fear. Sir, incoming transmission from the human homeworld. Put it on screen. The main display changed to show the interior of what was clearly a ship's bridge. A human female in a dark blue uniform sat in the command chair. She had short gray hair and calm, steady eyes. Behind her, other humans worked at control stations that looked surprisingly advanced. The human woman spoke in a clear, strong voice. Zephyrian vessels. This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Space Force, commanding the U-East Defiance. You have entered human space without permission and issued threats against our homeworld. You have 10 minutes to withdraw to the edge of our system, or we will consider this an act of war. Admiral Kithmer's mandibles clicked with anger and disbelief. A primitive human was threatening him? A species that barely had spaceflight was giving orders to the Galactic Council? Human Admiral, he said, making his voice as intimidating as possible. You are speaking to Admiral Kithmer of the Zephyrian Galactic Council. Your species is primitive and weak. We offer you one chance to surrender peacefully. Continue your threats, and we will destroy your entire civilization." Admiral Chun's expression did not change. She looked tired and slightly annoyed, like someone dealing with a persistent problem. "Admiral Kithmer, my species learned something important during our development. Peace is only possible when backed by the absolute certainty of overwhelming retaliation. You came to our home with weapons and threats. You damaged one of our monitoring stations when you destroyed your own ship's engine as a warning shot." "Warning shot?" Admiral Kithmer was confused. "We did not fire any weapons." "No, Admiral. We did. Your ship lost its engine because we removed it." "Very precisely. Very carefully. As a warning, you now have 9 minutes and 30 seconds to withdraw, or we will remove the rest of your ships just as precisely, but not as carefully." The transmission ended. Admiral Kithmer stared at the blank screen, his 4 eyes wide with shock. The humans had destroyed his ship's engine? Without his sensors detecting anything? That was impossible. "Commander Nixtel, scan for the ship that fired on us. Full active sensors. Maximum power." "Sir, I am scanning." "Sir, there is nothing out there. No ships, no weapons platforms, no energy signatures." "The humans are bluffing," Admiral Kithmer decided. "They use some kind of stealth mine or hidden weapon. But they cannot have many such devices. We will proceed to Earth and show them the price of threatening the Council." But even as he gave the order to advance, Admiral Kithmer felt a cold fear growing in his chest. Because somewhere in the back of his mind, he was beginning to understand that the humans might not be bluffing at all. Admiral Kithmer stared at the chronometer on his bridge display. 8 minutes had passed since the human admiral's ultimatum. His remaining 2 ships continued their approach toward Earth, moving at maximum speed. His pride would not allow him to retreat from primitives, no matter what tricks they might have. "Status report on the Granite Fist?" he demanded. Commander Nixtel checked her instruments. "Sir, Captain Velcor reports that his engine section has been completely destroyed. Whatever hit them cut through the hull like it was not even there. His engineers say they have never seen damage patterns like this. But they are alive?" "Yes, sir. The weapon only targeted the engine. It was very precise." Admiral Kithmer felt his mandibles click nervously. A warning shot that could disable a Council cruiser without killing the crew required incredible accuracy and power. But he had come too far to back down now. The Council had never retreated from primitives. His reputation and career depended on completing this mission successfully. 2 minutes remaining, the navigation officer announced. "Sir," Commander Nixtel said, her voice tight with worry, "I recommend we consider the human warning. Our mission was to make peaceful contact, not start a war with an unknown enemy." "Unknown?" Admiral Kithmer spun toward her. "Commander, these are primitives with chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. Whatever they did to the Granite Fist was a lucky shot or hidden mine. They cannot possibly have weapons that can threaten us." "But sir, what if we are wrong?" "We are not wrong." Admiral Kithmer slammed one of his 4 fists on his chair's armrest. "The Galactic Council has never been wrong about primitive species. Our technology is thousands of years more advanced than theirs. I will not be intimidated by clever tricks." The chronometer reached 0 for 30 seconds. Nothing happened. Admiral Kithmer began to feel vindicated. The humans were bluffing after all. Their warning had been an empty threat designed to make him retreat without a fight. Then every sensor on his ship started, screaming, "Sir!" Commander Nixtel's voice cracked with terror. "Massive energy signature detected. Something is decloaking directly ahead of us." Admiral Kithmer looked at the main screen and felt his 4 hearts stop beating. The ship that appeared in front of them was beyond anything in his experience. It was 2 kilometers long, built like a predator, ready to strike. The hull was dark gray, covered in angular armor plates that seemed to absorb light. Weapon ports covered every surface, from tiny point defense systems to massive cannon barrels that looked like they could destroy moons. The human ship looked like it had been built for one purpose: war. Not the clean, elegant war that civilized species conducted, but brutal, total war where the only goal was the complete destruction of the enemy. How? How big is that ship? Admiral Kithmer whispered. Sir, 2,000 meters from bow to stern. Mass readings indicate heavy armor and internal structure. Sir, the power output from that ship is reading at impossible levels. Admiral Kithmer tried to process what he was seeing. The largest Council warships were 1,000 meters long. This human vessel was twice that size. But size was not everything. Council ships were built with advanced materials and sophisticated systems. This human ship looked crude and brutal in comparison. Open fire, he ordered. All weapons. Destroy that primitive vessel. Sir, are you certain? The humans said they would consider any hostile action an act of war. Commander, that ship may be large, but it is still primitive human technology. Our plasma cannons will cut through their hull like paper. Fire! The Stellar Dominion and the Crystal Sword opened fire simultaneously. Plasma bolts and particle beams lanced through space toward the massive human ship. The energy weapons struck the dark hull and did nothing. The human ship's armor absorbed the weapon's fire without even glowing. Defense shields that Admiral Kithmer had not detected the energy beams harmlessly into space. The most powerful weapons in the Council fleet had failed to even scratch the enemy hull. Sir, Commander Nextel whispered. Our weapons are having no effect. Impossible. Target their engines. Their weapon systems. Find a weak point. The communication system suddenly activated without orders from anyone on the bridge. Admiral Chun's face appeared on the main screen again. She looked disappointed and tired. Admiral Kithmer, you have chosen war. My species learned long ago that peace is only possible when backed by the absolute certainty of overwhelming retaliation. You will leave now, or you will join the wreckage of every other fleet that thought humanity was weak. You are primitives. Admiral Kithmer screamed at the screen. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours. How is this possible? Admiral Chun's expression softened slightly, almost with pity. Admiral, your species may have had spaceflight longer than us, but you have been the strongest force in your region for 3,000 years. You have not faced a real threat in all that time. You have grown comfortable, soft. She leaned forward in her command chair. Humanity has been in space for 50 years. But we spent those 50 years preparing for this exact moment. We knew that someday, someone would come to our home with weapons and demands. We decided that when that day came, we would be ready. The human ship's weapon systems began to power up. Energy readings spiked to levels that made Commander Nixtel's instruments overload and shut down to protect themselves. Your mistake, Admiral Chen continued, was thinking that primitive meant weak. You assumed that because we achieved spaceflight recently, we would build weak ships and weak weapons. But we built our ships to fight enemies exactly like you. Advanced civilizations that thought they could conquer us because we were young. Admiral Kithmer watched in horror as weapon ports opened along the human ship's hull. Each weapon was larger than the main guns on his cruisers. There were dozens of them. Please, he said, his voice barely a whisper. We can negotiate. The Council can offer you favorable terms for joining our alliance. No, Admiral Chun said simply. You came to our home with threats. You demanded our surrender. You fired on our ships when we offered you a chance to leave peacefully. There is nothing to negotiate. The human ship fired. The weapons that struck Admiral Kithmer's fleet were unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever created. They did not use plasma or particle beams or fusion warheads. They used principles of physics that Council science had not yet discovered. The energy that hit the two Council cruisers was so intense that it bypassed their shields entirely and struck their hulls directly. The Stellar, Dominion, and the Crystal Sword did not explode. They simply stopped existing. One moment they were there, and the next moment there was nothing but expanding clouds of atomic particles. Admiral Kithmer had one brief instant to realize that humanity was not primitive at all. They had used their 50 years in space very wisely. They had prepared for war against an advanced enemy. And they had prepared very well. Then he and his ship joined the expanding cloud of debris. In the silence of space, the used Defiance hung motionless among the particles that had once been two Galactic Council cruisers. Admiral Chun looked at the tactical display, then turned to her communications officer. "Send a message to the disabled ship," she ordered. "Tell them they have 24 hours to repair their engines and leave our system. If they are still here after that time, we will assume they need assistance and send an escort to help them find their way home." "Yes, sir." "Should we mention that our escort would be another Titan-class warship?" Admiral Chun smiled grimly. "I think they will figure that out on their own." The emergency beacon from the Granite Fist reached the Galactic Council Citadel 18 hours after the battle. Council Prime Vexara was reviewing trade reports when her personal communicator began flashing with the highest priority alert signal. She had not seen that particular signal in over 200 years. Within minutes, all 12 council members were gathered in the emergency session chamber. This room was smaller than the main hall, with heavy shielding and security systems designed to protect the leadership during crises. The walls were made of pure crystal that could withstand planetary bombardment. Vexara activated the communication system, and Captain Velkor's image appeared above the central table. The Zephyrian officer looked terrible. His usually perfect carapace was cracked and dulled. His 4 eyes were wide with shock and trauma. "Captain Velkor, report your status," Vexara ordered. "Council Prime." Captain Velkor's voice shook as he spoke. "Admiral Kithmer is dead. The Stellar Dominion and Crystal Sword have been destroyed. I am the only survivor." The council chamber fell into complete silence. For several seconds, no one moved or spoke. The words were impossible to process. 3 council cruisers had been sent to intimidate a primitive species. 2 had been destroyed and the admiral was dead. Ambassador Velthan was the first to recover his voice. "Captain, please repeat your report. Did you say that Admiral Kithmer is dead?" "Yes, sir." Both his ship and the Crystal Sword were completely destroyed, vaporized in seconds. There was nothing left but atomic particles. General Krexter slammed his massive fist on the table, cracking the crystal surface. "Impossible! What enemy fleet attacked you? How many ships?" "Sir," Captain Velkor said quietly, "1 ship. A single human vessel destroyed 2 council cruisers in less than 30 seconds." The silence returned, deeper and more shocked than before. Lady Ziranel's crystal body cycled through rapid color changes as her mind processed the information. Red for alarm, purple for confusion, yellow for disbelief. 1 ship? Economic Minister Drexvin's tentacles writhed with agitation. "Captain, you must be mistaken. No single vessel can destroy a council cruiser. Our shields and armor are designed to withstand massive fleet attacks." "Sir, I watched it happen. The human ship was 2 kilometers long. Their weapons, I have never seen anything like them. They fired once. Our ship simply stopped existing." Council Prime Vexara forced herself to think clearly despite the shock. "Captain, describe this human ship in detail." What class of vessel was it? What weapons did they use? Captain Velkor's image flickered as he accessed his ship's damaged records. The ship identified itself as the UES Defiance Titan-class warship. The weapons appeared to use some form of advanced energy manipulation that bypassed our shields entirely. Our science officers said the energy patterns were unlike anything in our databases. Titan-class, Ambassador Yethkal whispered from his shadow form. They classified their warships by size categories. This suggests they have multiple classes, multiple sizes. The implication hit everyone at the same time. If the humans had different classes of warships, and their largest class could destroy Council cruisers easily, what did that say about their total military capability? Lady Ziranel's crystals turned bright red. Captain Velkor, how many ships did you observe in the human system? Ma'am, our sensors detected thousands of installations and vessels throughout their star system, but most appeared to be civilian craft. The defense platforms numbered in the thousands as well. And military vessels? General Krexter demanded. Sir, I only saw one warship clearly, the Defiance, but, sir, their admiral mentioned other ships. She spoke as if this vessel was not unique. Dexara felt a cold fear growing in her chest. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had been the dominant power in this region of space. They had grown used to their superiority. No species had ever challenged them successfully. Council members, she said formally, we must assess our military position against this new threat. General Krexter, what is your evaluation? General Krexter's rock-like face was grim. Council Prime, if a single human ship can destroy 2 of our cruisers, then our standard fleet tactics are useless. Our largest battle cruisers are only 1 kilometer long. If their Titan-class ships are twice that size, he did not need to finish the thought. Everyone understood the mathematics of space combat. Larger ships carried more weapons, more armor, more shields. A ship twice the size of a Council battlecruiser would be exponentially more powerful. Ambassador, Velthan's gills fluttered with anxiety. What about our technology advantage? We have had spaceflight for millennia. Surely our weapons and defenses are more advanced? Captain Velkor answered from the screen. Sir, with respect, their weapons were more advanced than ours. Much more advanced. They completely ignored our shields and armor. Our best defenses were useless. Economic Minister Drexven was calculating rapidly on his datapad. If the humans have military technology superior to ours, what does that suggest about their industrial capacity? To build ships that large requires massive manufacturing capabilities. Lady Ziranel's crystals turned deep purple as she accessed the collective's memory banks. I am reviewing all intelligence reports on human space activities. Captain Velkor mentioned massive industrial installations around their gas giant. The scale was much larger than expected for a primitive species. They are not primitive, Ambassador Yethkal said quietly. His shadow form rippled with concern. We made an assumption based on the age of their space program, but they have used their time very efficiently. Council Prime Dexara looked around the table at her fellow council members. For the first time in her long life, she saw fear in their eyes. Real fear. The kind of fear that comes from realizing that everything you believed about your own power was wrong. What are our options? She asked. General Krexter consulted his military advisors through his communicator. After several minutes, he looked up with a grim expression. Council Prime, I have consulted with our fleet commanders. If the humans have multiple ships of the class that destroyed Admiral Kithmer's fleet, then a military solution is not possible. Not possible? Dexara's mandibles clicked with disbelief. The Council has the largest military force in the galaxy. Over 10,000 warships. Yes, Council Prime. But if their single ship can destroy 2 of our cruisers in 30 seconds, then 10,000 ships would last perhaps an hour against a small human fleet. Size and numbers mean nothing if their weapons are that much more advanced than ours. The weight of this situation settled over the council like a heavy blanket. For 3,000 years, they had been the ones making demands. They had been the strong ones, offering weaker species the choice between joining or dying. Now, they were the weak ones. "There is another option," Lady Ziranel said softly. Her crystals had turned a calm blue color. "We could attempt diplomatic contact. As equals." The phrase hung in the air like a foreign concept. The Galactic Council had never negotiated as equals with anyone. They had always been the superior power dictating terms to lesser species. "You suggest we negotiate with these humans?" Economic Minister Drexvin asked. "After they destroyed our ships?" "After we threatened their homeworld," Ambassador Yethkal corrected. "Captain Velcor, did the humans make any demands after their victory?" Captain Velcor nodded. "Yes, sir. They told me I had 24 hours to repair my engines and leave their system. They offered to provide an escort if needed." "An escort?" General Krexter asked suspiciously. "Yes, sir." Another Titan-class warship. The council members exchanged glances. The humans were being surprisingly reasonable. They had the power to destroy the disabled ship, but instead they were offering safe passage home. Council Prime Dexara made the hardest decision of her political career. "I call for a formal vote. All in favor of attempting diplomatic negotiations with the human species." One by one, hands, tentacles, claws, and other appendages rose into the air. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Galactic Council would ask instead of demand. 3 weeks after the destruction of Admiral Kithmer's fleet, Ambassador Elena Vasquez arrived at the Galactic Council Citadel aboard the U.S. Prometheus. The human diplomatic vessel was smaller than the Defiance, only 800 meters long. But its sleek design and obvious weapon systems made every council member nervous. Elena Vasquez was a woman in her 50s with silver hair and calm, intelligent eyes. She had spent 20 years as Earth's chief negotiator for interplanetary disputes and had a reputation for being both fair and absolutely unmovable when her principles were challenged. The council had debated for days about how to receive her. Protocol demanded that tributary species send representatives to the outer chambers and wait for permission to speak. But the humans were clearly not a tributary species. After much discussion, they decided to receive Ambassador Vasquez in the main council chamber, as if she represented an equal power. When Elena walked into the crystal chamber, she looked around with interest, but no sign of intimidation. She had seen the intelligence reports about council technology and architecture. She knew she was in the heart of a civilization that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. But she also knew what the U.S. Defiance had done to their fleet. "Ambassador Vasquez," Council Prime Dexara said formally, "the Galactic Council welcomes you to discuss terms of contact between our civilizations." Elena took her place at a chair that had been specially built for human physiology. "Council Prime, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I believe we have much to discuss about the future of this region of space." The phrase, "this region of space," was carefully chosen. Elena was not acknowledging council authority over human territory. She was speaking as if humans and the council were two equal powers sharing the same area. Lady Ziranel's crystals flickered with curiosity. "Ambassador, we understand that your species wishes to avoid conflict with the council. What terms would humanity find acceptable?" Elena smiled politely. "Lady Ziranel, I think there may be some misunderstanding about humanity's position. We are not seeking to avoid conflict. We have already demonstrated that conflict with the Council would not threaten our survival. We are here to establish beneficial relationships based on mutual respect. The subtle correction sent a ripple of unease through the council members. Elena was making it clear that humanity was negotiating from a position of strength, not weakness. What does humanity want? General Krexter asked bluntly. Full membership in any galactic community that emerges from these discussions, Elena replied. Not as a tributary species or junior member, but as an equal partner with full voting rights and territorial sovereignty. Economic Minister Drexvin's tentacles writhed with agitation. Ambassador, the Council has established systems of governance that have maintained peace for 3 millennia. We cannot simply change our fundamental structures. Minister Drexvin, Elena said calmly, your systems have maintained the peace by ensuring that the Council always had overwhelming military superiority over any potential rivals. That situation has changed. New systems will need to emerge to reflect new realities. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Elena was telling them directly that their 3,000-year-old empire was obsolete. Ambassador Velthan leaned forward in his water-filled chair. What assurance can humanity provide that it will not use its military superiority to dominate other species as the Council has done? Elena's expression became slightly sad. Ambassador, humanity has learned from its own history and from observing others. Military dominance is a temporary advantage at best. Technology advances, situations change, and today's superior force becomes tomorrow's obsolete equipment. Sustainable peace requires systems based on mutual benefit, not mutual fear. Council Prime Dexara clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. You speak of sustainable peace, Ambassador. What would such a system look like? A true alliance, Elena replied. Not an empire with a dominant species ruling over subjects, but a voluntary association of equal members working toward common goals. Trade, exploration, scientific advancement, cultural exchange. The universe is vast and full of opportunities for growth and discovery. Why waste energy fighting each other when we could be working together? Lady Ziranel's crystals turned bright yellow with interest. Such a system would require significant changes to current power structures. What happens to the Council's authority? The Council could become the foundation for a larger alliance, Elena suggested. Your experience in managing interstellar relationships would be valuable. But the structure would need to evolve to include new members as equals, not subjects. Ambassador Yethkal's shadow form rippled. And if some council members prefer the current system? If we choose not to accept these changes? Elena's expression remained calm, but her voice became slightly colder. That is, of course, you're right. Humanity will respect the choice of any species to maintain their current relationships with the Council. We will simply ensure that those relationships do not extend into human space or affect our allies. The implication was clear. The Council could continue to dominate those species that accepted domination, but they would no longer be the only major power in the region. Humanity would provide an alternative that other species could choose. General Krexter leaned back in his chair, his rocky face thoughtful. Ambassador, you speak confidently about humanity's ability to enforce these terms. One ship destroyed 2 of ours, but the Council has thousands of vessels. Elena nodded. General, I appreciate your honesty. You are wondering about humanity's true military capabilities. She activated a small device on her wrist, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed technical specifications for the UES Defiance and several other ship classes. The Defiance is 3 years old and scheduled for decommissioning next month, Elena said casually. She was our first successful Titan-class design, but we have improved significantly since then. Our current Titan-class ships are approximately 40% more capable. The Council members stared at the technical data in shock. The ship that had effortlessly destroyed 2 Council cruisers was considered obsolete by human standards. Elena continued. Humanity currently operates 12 Titan-class warships, 67 Nova-class cruisers, and approximately 300 smaller vessels. Our industrial capacity allows us to build new ships faster than the Council could destroy them, even if you dedicated your entire fleet to the task. Economic Minister Drexfin was frantically calculating on his datapad. The numbers Elena was providing suggested a military production capability that dwarfed anything the Council possessed. However, Elena continued, and her voice became warmer, humanity much prefers building schools and hospitals to building ships like the Defiance. We would rather spend our resources on exploration, science, and improving life for our citizens. But we will build whatever we need to protect our freedom and the freedom of our allies. The message was clear and unmistakable. Humanity had the power to destroy the Council's military forces if necessary, but they would prefer to work together peacefully. The choice was up to the Council. Council Prime Vexara looked around the table at her fellow Council members. She could see the same thoughts in their eyes that were running through her mind. The age of Council dominance was over. They could accept that reality and work with humanity to build something better. Or they could fight a war they could not win. Ambassador Vasquez, she said formally, the Council will need time to consider these proposals and discuss them with our member species. Of course, Elena replied. Humanity understands that major changes require careful consideration. We are prepared to wait for your decision and to work with you in developing new structures that benefit everyone. As the formal session ended and Elena was escorted to guest quarters, the Council members remained in their chairs, staring at the empty space where her holographic display had been. Ambassador Velthan spoke first. The universe has changed. Our choice is to change with it or be left behind. One by one, the Council members nodded in agreement. The age of Galactic Empire was ending. The age of Galactic Alliance was about to begin, and in her guest quarters, Elena Vasquez looked out at the stars and smiled. Humanity had come far from the primitive species that had just learned to build chemical rockets. They had learned the most important lesson of all. True strength came not from the ability to conquer others, but from the wisdom to build something better than conquest. The galaxy would never be the same.